Hey everybody, welcome to THESPIANWERX. I am your host, Anthony Velvet Hall, and as I always say, all the world is a stage, but everybody on the stage has a different role that they play. And tonight I have the extreme honor and privilege to be talking to a couple of filmmakers who I met through another filmmaker, and it's going to be interesting to talk to both of them. So let's get this show on the road and let's bring them on. Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined and have the extreme honor and privilege to be joined by Nicholas and Melissa, Nicholas Grant and Melissa Brown. How are you two tonight?
Good. We're doing great.
Yeah, we're doing really well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing good for a Thursday night. I can't complain. If I did, it wouldn't really make much difference. So, no need in doing it. So, we actually met. Well, not met, but I was introduced to you guys through Bobby Peoples, and I've worked with Bobby in the past, and I know that they're doing their thing over there in Vegas and Nevada, and I would gather that you two are West Coast based as well.
Yeah, we're based out of Las Vegas. So we created our company Antics Entertainment about a year ago, and
Okay.
Nick already had his own company.
Yes, Graveyard Cinemas.
Okay. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So you two are filmmakers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Tell us about the beginning of your filmmaking journeys, individually, collectively, however you like to do that.
Well, how mine got started was I initially wanted to be an author. I like telling stories. I like creating characters. I like creating worlds. But then I got really hooked into movie making when I lived in LA. And then when I found out that I could do multiple roles, I can really put my stories on the big screen, I took it upon myself to want to learn more about it. So I learned script writing. I learned how camera work works. And then when I moved back out here, I went to college and really dived more into it. And I spent the last 8 years honing in on my filmmaking, creating, writing. It's been one heck of a journey. I'll simply say that. One heck of a journey, but it's one that's definitely been worth it.
Yeah. And
Cool.
yeah, for me, I'm from New York originally. I started out in theater, so that's what I did for most of my life. And I went out here for high school actually for a little bit, and that's how I met Nick initially. And then when I moved back out here about like 2 years ago, we
Mhm.
reconnected and started working together again. I was an actress in his film Coven. That's a short film that's on his company's page, Graveyard Cinemas. And we just started working together on a whole bunch of projects after that and started creating Antics.
Nice, very nice. Now, with the attraction to creating worlds, not just characters, but worlds, and I guess a cinematic term would be universes. What genre of entertainment or filmmaking do you guys particularly favor more than any other? Which one grabs your eye? And when you're thinking of a project to create, what is the genre that automatically comes to mind?
Well, for me, it's always been horror or thrillers for me. I grew up with a lot of Alfred Hitchcock, a lot of John Carpenter, Wes Craven, Todd Hooper. I grew up with a lot of the slasher films, thanks to my mother, who's another horror nut. She's the reason I'm into it from the get go. I love it. Horror tells really good stories and even really important life lessons that many people kind of forgotten because some of them are even taught to us when we were kids, like the Brothers Grimm. A lot of them teach really important life lessons, and I've wanted to use my storytelling and my filmmaking to not only entertain and to terrify, but also teach lessons as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of the filmmaking that I gravitate towards, at least for like acting in the past, has been very dramatic and very character driven. When you're in theater, that's a lot of the work that you do is, a character, makes a decision and then that the story unfolds from there. So I feel like a lot of the stuff that I like to work on or like to view just in general, like in my off time, is really character driven.
Okay. All right. Now, when you speak of horror movies, I know a lot of times people see horror because I personally I haven't watched a whole lot of horror movies. I did when I was younger, but I haven't really watched them now. Like I'm more a fan of when I talk about universes, cinematic. I'm a DC Marvel, more Marvel than DC because DC movies kind of suck. But anyway, I'm more Marvel than DC. So, but I know you were saying that when you talk about slasher films and things, there are life lessons that a person can learn and can draw from. As somebody who's not particularly I guess maybe following a lot of the storylines and maybe I guess lessons to be learned. Can you give me a just an example of a movie that you saw that may have grabbed people's attention based on the horror and the gore and the idea that it was just like a slasher movie, but had some sort of life lesson ingrained in it, where people knew what that lesson was either throughout the movie or by the time the movie was over?
If I had to give to one, and it was one that my mom introduced to me when I was really young, it's a film called Silence of the Lambs. When she introduced, she wanted to teach me that not everybody is who they appear to be. Physical appearances can be deceiving. So she brought me in to the time when Clarice Starling was introduced to the character Hannibal Lecter. When I saw Hannibal Lecter, all I saw was an old man in a cage that looked like he was in his 50s, his 60s. And he didn't look threatening. He didn't look dangerous. Really intelligent, but I kind of asked myself, why is he in there? Why is he so dangerous? Why did they go so far to put him in the bottom cell where all the craziest of the crazies are? And then the film continued. And then came the daring police escape and how he got out. And then I learned more about what he did. That kind of taught me, it's like, wow, okay, that you just don't know. Don't let what somebody looks like fool you into thinking that's who they are.
Okay. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Now, Melissa, you say that you did a lot of theater and that you are an actress as well. We've just celebrated a celebration of Women's Month. We've actually had International Women's Day. As an actress, I'm not even gonna say like a female actor. As an actress, when you look at a role, what about a role that maybe somebody will offer you or something that you audition for? Is there something about a character breakdown when you're looking at a role that immediately captures your eye and captures your attention and makes you say, well, you know what, I got to go for this role, as opposed to one that, kind of makes you go, well, let somebody else have that? What is it about a character breakdown that makes you immediately want to try out for a role?
I think the thing that would make me want to try out for a role is just depth of character. I want to, be able to really explore a character to its fullest extent. Like I want to live in that character's skin, basically. So I have to make sure before I take a role that whatever character's skin I'm going to be living in, I can bring the best aspects of that character out and make them relatable to the audience. So that's the main thing that I look for in a role. I just want to make sure that I'm bringing my best work to it.
Awesome. Now, Nick, in creating any kind of filmmaking, I know that a lot of times there are people who tend to, when they're creating universes of some sort, create films that have enough to keep the audience in tune with everything that's going on, but also don't give everything at once in hopes, I guess, maybe that there's a sequel or a part 3 or several chapters that can happen with a movie. Is that something that you lean toward when you are creating any kind of film? the possibility of there being a sequel, or is a lot of your stuff kind of one-off films?
Well, when it comes to my stuff, I oftentimes try not to do tried to go into it with the thought of there could be a franchise. I want to focus on one coherent story, making sure that the characters and the ideas flow perfectly before I dive into the possibility, okay, this story can continue. I think a lot of times when filmmakers go into that with the idea of let's just do this and make a franchise around it, it can be very detrimental if you're not focusing on making sure that the core story, the very first film that you do, that the story is correct, the characters make sense, the dialogue makes sense, the world all adds up. I just try to make sure that I have one straightforward, complete movie before I go to the conclusion, okay, this can continue. This character has something else happen to them, or this other character, they can come back in a separate thing involved in the same universe.
Right, right, absolutely. And I totally agree with you about it being detrimental because I can remember years and years ago where there was a movie, and the crazy thing is, like, the title of the movie was like Reno Williams, Legend Begins, or something, as if to suggest that after the movie was finished, that there'd be a part two, and there never was a part two because the first movie was horrible. It was just kind of, it was a bad foreshadowing, I guess. So I can totally understand where you're coming from when you talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if your first story isn't good, then the possibility of an entire universe really can't be, because that first film, if you think about it, is the foundation, a potential foundation. And if your foundation is shifty and cracked, the universe will fall down like a house of cards.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree with you because I've seen it happen, and it's good that you write that way because, like you said, you put out something that's good and concrete, and who knows, maybe the demand from the people who actually see it will be enough to spark interest in a separate universe. I mean, or more or less another story. That story having more legs and more branches growing from that tree. So that's a very interesting take. Very, very interesting take. Now, Melissa, what would you say would be, what would you consider the most strenuous and toughest character that you've played thus far?
Um, Honestly, I would say it was the last role that I played. So I played Melanie Page in Nicholas Grant's debut feature film that just came out on Amazon Prime Video, Hell Hath No Fury. And it was a female lead in a horror film, which I've wanted to do since I was a little girl. So that was really cool. But at the same time, that character that I played had so much trauma and so much stuff going on in her head, not to give too much away, but she has a lot of like really, really strenuous issues that she's dealing with. So it was not necessarily difficult, but definitely stressful to have to portray that role and really like give it your all, because you do have to put yourself into such a kind of scary place to be able to really deliver on something like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's a wonderful segue because I was actually going to ask you about that next. So, Hell Hath No Fury, the feature that is actually out right now. Nick, please tell us what inspired you to write this movie.
When I first came up with the idea, initially I was kind of thinking like, I want to create the next horror icon, but female. Someone like Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees. I was like, I want to do something along that aspect. And then many drafts later, I decided I want to try something dealing with psychological stalkers, because I've seen tons. Many. One of my favorites that still scares the crap out of me is the Clint Eastwood directorial debut, which was also a psychological stalker film called Play Misty for Me. And it was about a guy who was getting stalked by this crazed woman. And what I've noticed mostly when it comes to most psychological stalker films is if it's dealing with a woman, they always try to up it with the sexy. I didn't want to up it with the sexy. I wanted to go for the crazy, the tormented, the horrific. And she delivered on that 110 times over with it. And I really wanted to tell a really scary story, but have a sense of realism into it, because as I've always believed, the most terrifying monster in the entire world sometimes isn't what's in your closet, not what's underneath your bed. Sometimes the most horrifying monster and the most terrifying one can be a human being and what goes on in here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, would you say when we talk about psychological thrillers, most of the time when people think of horror films, they think of the legendary characters in the vein of Jason Voorhees or Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers or Pinhead or some of the other characters. Have you developed anything that resembles that, in the sense that maybe there's not an entire journey, well, maybe there's a backstory, but before you get to the backstory, you see this monster that is just this imposing figure that, okay, if nothing else, he or she kills, and then maybe somewhere along the way you develop or you explore that story. Have you ever developed a character that was just in your face, terrifying?
The only other one that I've ever created like that, besides Melanie Page, was a short I did a few years ago called "Can I Kill You?" Which was, the plot of that was a girl's best friend comes to her and tells her she murdered an entire family, and how exciting and how amazing it was, and how she's so hungry for blood. Yeah.
Ouch. Wow. Yeah. That's something. That is definitely something. Oh man, ouch. I mean, how do you come back from that? Like that's got the wheels turning right now. I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
like,
that's my whole idea. I mean, I've always wanted to do stuff that creates, like, there are these terrifying characters, but there's always this sense of this could actually happen. Mm-hmm. Because when you think about it, there are tons of crazy stories about people doing insane stuff that sounds like stuff you would only hear in a novel or play in a video game or in a movie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Melissa, as an actress, what would be your dream role?
Honestly, there is no dream role. Like, I just want to have a long and healthy career where I'm able to portray different characters and hopefully help people get through hardships like my favorite actors have helped me. That's honestly it. I think if I had to pick something, Ahsoka Tano in Star Wars, I'd love to play that character, especially after Rosario Dawson portrayed her in The Mandalorian. It would be something that would be super exciting for me to, like, portray the younger version of her. But other than that, I mean, I really just want to have a long and healthy career.
Understood. And I appreciate, as an actor myself, I really do appreciate the idea that you're somebody who wants to pursue different characters, and like not just a character that's just in one little box. You want to do different things. And as an actor, I've talked to several other actors and I've talked to them about typecasting. And for me, I personally don't want to be typecast as an actor, but other actors will tell me, well, if you've been typecast, then what it does is it guarantees you work. So as an actress, which do you see typecasting as, a blessing, a curse, or a little bit of both?
I feel like for myself, because I don't go through like an agent or somebody who's looking for work for me, I pick and choose what I want to do. So when I look for a role, I can kind of gauge whether or not it's something I've done before, and then either apply based off of that, or go for a different role instead of something that I've like already done, just so that I have some type of variety in my work and stuff like that.
Cool, pretty cool. Now, we've spoken about filmmaking, we've spoken about acting, but once all this is pushed to the side and you two are just being yourselves, what do you do for fun individually?
Honestly,
Yeah, honestly.
most of the time, at least for me, it's watching movies or playing video games to try and get more ideas so I can make more ideas for more movies. Honestly.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, I definitely just will binge watch TV, movies, things like that. I like baking sweets a lot. You know, it's kind of it's really a lot of work all the time when you're doing what we're doing, and with the startup company and stuff. It's you're putting in your whole day pretty much to it. So there's not a lot of free time, but the free time that we do have, I feel like we have fun. Yeah.
Absolutely. I can totally understand. Now, as you know, the world we live in today is a much different world than we lived in 18 months ago with COVID-19 and the coronavirus and the effects of it with social distancing and a lot of things closing down and our world just being completely different. Um, with there being quarantined from time to time and a lot of things closing and then opening between the time when we were just basically told to kind of stay where we are up until now, do you feel that that type of isolation has helped either one of you creatively more than it did before the advent of the coronavirus?
for me, definitely, definitely. The time to myself, it had me kind of go back to old ideas that I wrote years ago that kind of just sat in my computer or sat in my drawer collecting dust. It gave me the time to go over new ideas that I always had in my head, but never really wrote down. It even creatively, it had me want to try stuff that I haven't done in a while, like singing, because I like doing that too.
Okay. All right. And Melissa?
Yeah, I feel for these past 18 months or so that we've been, quarantined and not really allowed to go out places, it's definitely helped my creativity in a way, because it's given me time to actually like look at situations from afar, if that makes sense. I've been able to really hone in on my writing and be able to work on music in a way that I haven't been able to before, and just be able to specify what I want to do with my life and my career. So I feel like it's definitely helped a lot.
Awesome. Awesome. It's very good that people are finding positives in what was deemed a very negative 12, 18 months, I guess anybody could say.
Yeah.
So, collectively and individually, what does the future hold for you two?
Collectively, we are about to do a film, a fan film that deals with Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy called Sirens.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Awesome. And it's strange. It's really strange that you mentioned that because last year I was part of a fan film that from the Batman universe that dealt with I want to say the Lazarus Pit and Ra's al Ghul.
Nice.
I'll be more than happy to share the link with you. The creator of this particular film, Christopher Brisbane, he was a guest of mine, and I've worked with him, and I'm going to be working with him in the summer on another film, which is completely different. But he likes comic books and things of that nature, and I've been trying to needle him about doing certain projects and things of that nature. So, but yeah, I would definitely pass on the link and other things like that to you so you can see what he's doing, because I think he was supposed to premiere it at the end of last year, and I'm not sure if he actually has it anywhere. He's got a trailer out, that I do know. If he's actually released the film or not, that I don't know, because I think it was supposed to come out and there was some sort of issue, so he had to push it back. But the trailer is available on YouTube, and I'll definitely send you to that link. I will most definitely do that. Yeah, and strangely enough, I've just started watching HBO Max, and they've gotten all of the DC stuff. So I just started watching the Harley Quinn cartoon, and yeah, I've been pleasantly entertained. Yeah, it's a wonderful cartoon, a very wonderful. I can't wait to see what you guys do when we start talking about Harley Quinn and putting your spin on everything.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a lot of fun. We're really excited to be able to finally get back to production on it this month and release it in the summer.
Awesome. Are you two big fans of the Batman universe?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Sure.
Okay, so beyond Harley Quinn, do you each have a favorite character that isn't Batman?
Mine personally is Mr. Freeze, because he kind of sort of strikes me as sort of like a Shakespearean villain a little bit when you go into where he was and then what happened to his wife and then him turning into this villain. There's layers to him outside of just a person who wants to blow up a building and rob a bank.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, not to take anything away from the Joker. He's amazing, but
yeah, for sure.
But Mr. Freeze has always been the one villain he's one of my favorite villains, but he's also one I kind of feel sorry for because I know what led him to become what he became.
Right. And Melissa?
Well, honestly, the reason that we decided to make Sirens in the first place was based off of like Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. My best friend Paula Ramirez and I wanted to create this story, and we decided we wanted to make something that was a little bit more realistic, kind of in the same light as like The Dark Knight or something to that effect. That actually focuses on the realism of these characters. So I wanted to dive into like the layers of each of these characters, Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, but we are going to be bringing in the Riddler in a little bit. So that is really exciting for me because I think that that's such an interesting character because he's been portrayed in a couple of different ways, but honestly, I really liked the portrayal of his specific character in Gotham because I think you got to see a lot of the mental degradation that he went through to be where he was. And I think that that's a cool aspect that we're really excited to explore in the Sirens film too.
Absolutely. Please be sure to let our fans know where they can find you on social media.
If you follow us on on Instagram, it's at AnticsEnt, ANTIKSENT, and you can find us at Antics Entertainment on YouTube, Facebook, Graveyard Cinemas on YouTube
as well. If you're looking for it, my logo is a big red skull.
Yeah.
Okay. Pretty cool. Well, I wish you all the best. I am definitely going to check out Hell Hath No Fury. First opportunity I get. And I can't wait to see your fan film. That is definitely going to be something I can't wait to see because the Batman universe is big enough as it is. And it always thrills me when I see somebody else's vision for characters because a lot of times you see DC movies and they tend to be repetitive when we start talking about the origins of people, and it's just like it's the same thing told over and over again. But the universe itself is so big, there's so many characters, and there are a lot of untold stories, and I can't wait to see what your story is. So with that, I would like to thank you guys for joining me here tonight on THESPIANWERX. Everybody, I once again want to thank my guest, Nicholas, and Melissa for joining me here tonight. This has been THESPIANWERX with Anthony Velvet Hall. Thank you so much for joining me. And as I depart, I leave you with three things I always say. Life is short, death is certain, and be sure to love on the people God gives you, because one day he's going to want them back. All right?
For sure.
Peace
Thank
and
you
love.
so much for having us. Thank you.